Kael emerged from the fissure into an ash valley that stretched empty and silent. His boots crunched on brittle stone, every step leaving faint trails that smoldered before fading. He staggered once, cloak heavy with soot, his breath ragged from the shadow jump that had saved him from Steel Spire's collapse. The soul blade pulsed faintly at his side, ember veins dimmer than they had been in the square but still burning like a coal refusing to die. He lowered himself against a jagged boulder and let his eyes close for a heartbeat. The world seemed quieter, but not safe. His HUD told him as much: instability tier escalating, control required. Legacy fragment essence absorbed. The words hovered at the edges of his vision, flickering red. His health bar crawled up from the low yellow into the safer middle band, though corruption warnings still flashed like angry embers. Kael stared at them and exhaled slowly, chest tight. Steel's spear was gone. Not obliterated, not wholly consumed, but fractured beyond easy repair. He had chosen to flee before unleashing his full eclipse, and still the city had cracked apart like a brittle blade hammered too many times. He could still hear the sound of towers falling, of walls breaking, of players and constructs screaming. And his name burned on every tongue now. The whispers in his skull pressed close, the single voice more insistent than ever. One consumed. More remain. Hunt them. Eclipse them all. Kael's grip tightened on the hilt. So it wasn't just me, he said, voice rasping in the ash-laden wind. He didn't know if he was speaking to the soul blade, to the whispers, or to himself. Maybe all three. The ash valley stretched wide. The ridges shimmered in ember light, fissures glowing faintly beneath their crust. For a few moments Kael thought he had earned silence. Then horns carried across the distant horizon. Faint, far, but unmistakable global alert: Steel Spear destabilized. Accord retreat confirmed. Dominion forces scattered. Legacy unbound responsible. Bounty raised, 100,000 gold plus mythic grade drop. The words scrolled across every player's HUD in the Nexus. Kael cursed under his breath. He could almost picture the guild leaders reading that alert, eyes lighting up with greed. He could see mercenary groups recalculating contracts, traders whispering about artifact drops worth kingdoms, bounty hunters sharpening blades in smoky taverns. He pushed himself upright, cloak dragging against the stone, and scanned the ridges. Already he caught glimpses of movement. Shapes along the edge of vision, scouts tracing his path. Not strong enough to challenge him outright, but quick enough to bleed his location into guild feeds and region chat. He flexed his fingers along the soul blade's grip and felt the faint pulse of its hunger. They're not going to stop, he muttered. The whispers agreed. They will never stop hunting. Then stop running. Hunt first. Kael slipped into a fissure seam, cloaking himself in shadow. His form blurred into the darkness, his presence thinning into a smudge of air. For a moment he simply listened. He heard the scrape of boots on stone, the faint hiss of blades being drawn, the whispered coordination of hunters who thought themselves clever. He smiled faintly. Then let's turn the tables. The first strike came quick. 3 rogues, mid-tier by their gear, marked with the crest of a minor guild that Kael had never heard of. They moved with confidence, blades glowing faintly with basic enchantments, eyes scanning the valley floor. They never looked up. Kael anchored to a seam above them and blinked down behind their formation. His blade cut through the seam of their shadows in a single sweep. One dissolved instantly, health bar gutted to 0 before his scream finished. The other 2 staggered, caught in the collapse of their companion. Kael pressed the edge of the soul blade against the neck of the survivor who still clung to life. Send your guild a message, Kael said, voice calm, almost gentle. Tell them the hunt has changed. He let the man stumble away, pale and wide-eyed, before the shadows swallowed him. The soul blade pulsed once, approving. Good. Fear feeds too. Kael turned deeper into the valley. His body still ached, every rib reminding him of steel's pyre, but his steps steadied. If this story has you listening this far, subscribe to Azure Inkblade so the next chapter finds you instead of getting buried. It helps us keep making more of these every week. Now, back to the chapter. Then his HUD twitched with static. At first he thought it was lingering corruption, but the distortion sharpened. The air in front of him thickened. A seam widened on its own. And something rose from it. The figure that emerged was wrong in every way. Its armor was blackened as if quenched in slag, plates stitched with cracks that healed and broke in the same breath. Its eyes burned ember white behind a visor that flickered. Its great sword looked like a shard of broken night, pixelating at the edges, humming with sound like hornets trapped in code. Its nameplate didn't show a guild tag or a health bar. Only a corrupted line of text error, legacy fragment / ID, null. Kael's stomach tightened. His grip steadied on the soul blade. Another prototype, he whispered. The whispers inside him surged with recognition. Yes. Fragment. Rival. Feed or be consumed. The thing lifted its broken sword, static crawling across its edges. Its voice came like glass cracking under strain. Legacy unbound. You are not alone. Kael's mouth went dry. So it begins. The fragment lunged. Steel met corrupted steel with a sound that tore the valley. Sparks of text and light unfurled, unraveling before they touched the ground. The impact threw Kael back a step, but he turned with it, riding the force into a counter-strike. His blade bit across the fragment's ribs, ember fire flaring in the wound. For a moment Kael thought he had landed a decisive blow. But the cut knitted shut with a hiss of code, corruption sealing itself like thread sewing across skin. The rival's head tilted. Unbound. But resisting. Kael spat blood and smiled thinly. You sound just like the Purge. The rival lifted its great sword in a slow, deliberate arc. Purge is a hammer, it rasped. We are the Forge. Kael triggered an umbral anchor and blinked past the blow. His counter cut across the seam beneath the creature's shoulder plate, sparks hissing. The fragment staggered but did not fall. Its movements quickened, sharper than before, as though each strike Kael made only taught it more about him. Kael's HUD flashed warnings. His health ticked lower, his stamina bleeding with every clash. His corruption bar inched higher. Still he fought. Each cut bled ember, each slash roared with black fire, each strike fed the soul blade and the storm in his veins. The whispers in his mind pulsed faster. Break him. Feed. Eclipse. Kael's jaw clenched. Not this time, he snarled. He pressed into the fight, refusing to break first. The valley shook as their blades tore seams in the ground, fissures hissing ember steam into the sky. Rocks split and tumbled, hunters watching from the ridges fled in panic. System warnings bled into the edges of his sight. Local integrity, 84% rightward arrow, 72% monitoring, unbound versus fragment. Warning, do not escalate. Kael bared his teeth in a humorless grin. Always so helpful. The fragment twisted its broken sword into a cut that didn't travel through space but through code. The black wave struck Kael in the ribs and hurled him into the stone. He coughed blood, struggled to rise, every bone ringing. His health plunged. His stamina screamed. The whispers inside him howled for release. The rival advanced, voice buzzing with static. You cannot endure. One must remain. Kael dragged the soul blade upright. His body shook but his eyes blazed ember black. Then let's see which of us survives the forge. The two legacies clashed again. Sparks of shadow and ember fire lit the valley like a storm. Kael bent seams into anchors, marked crescents into ash that stalled regeneration, carved cuts that were half declaration, half attack. The fragment met him in kind, every swing rewriting rules as much as it sought to kill. The battle stretched long into the ash night. Neither side yielded. Each strike carved not only stone but the code of the Nexus itself. Each breath brought Kael closer to collapse and closer to victory all at once. His HUD flashed again, instability tier rising. Control required. Kael's grip tightened on the soul blade. He felt the whispers surging, felt the hunger pressing closer. His voice came low, almost a promise. Then I'll be the last one standing. The valley roared with fire and static as the clash of legacies shook the world, and the storm of Arc 2 drew darker around them.